good people don't smoke marijuana.
I've known Larry for a long time.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
This is the Medical Marijuana Radio Show with Larry Love. All love.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Medical Marijuana Radio. This week, we're going to be talking to a gentleman from California named Sun. It's an incredible interview, and we'll get right to it in just a moment. Don't forget, every Friday and Saturday nights, my Late Night with Marijuana show on Clubhouse, 9 p.m. on West Coast. So now, here is our interview with Sun Aluti Malu.
This is the Medical Marijuana Radio Show with Larry Love. All love.
And today we are very happy to have Sun Mutialu. And Sun is just a wonderful human being that I met on Clubhouse. And introduce yourself for us and tell us what your passion is about cannabis and life, for that matter. Welcome.
Sure. So the first thing is, Sun is a given name to me by Jeff Lowenfels, who is a gardener. He's written a significant amount of books on living soil and such. My name is Sundarajan Mutialu, and I'm first generation, I guess, here from the Fiji Islands, but I am Indian. And myself, as far as my background, I'm a serial entrepreneur, but I'm primarily, in this stage of my life, I'm a biomimicry evangelist. Of course, I'm vegan, I'm a musician, I'm a plasma physicist, mechanical engineer, advanced materials. But all that doesn't mean much in the world that we're talking about in medical cannabis. I started using cannabis very early. I grew up in Berkeley, so it was a very unique area to grow up in.
Absolutely. That would do it. That would do it for you, growing up in Berkeley. I'm from California most of my life also. So, yeah.
So I started out, it was a time where cannabis was out in front, especially in Berkeley. I mean, certainly it's always been buried, but the stigma really wasn't there at that time, in that sort of free speech, free world, free love. And so I really enjoyed that my parents didn't know about it, of course. And my first love was music. But I had to go to school because I'm very traditional Indian family. But I really wanted to play music. That was and I'm all about frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
So, I basically spent a lot of time doing that, understanding and then when cannabis became more mainstream, I got more and more involved, and I decided to come back. I've retired a few times, first time when I was 40, in different companies and things that I've done. And so for me, when you said, let's talk and let's have a discussion, for me, I call it cannabis. I don't call it marijuana. I think it's a racial term, obviously, and I think a lot of people know that. And for me, cannabis is medicine, whether they use it as recreation or whether it's, absolutely used as a medicine for cancer and such. So no matter how people normalize it, or shove it down our throat or in our lungs, and whether it's adult use or medicinal or industrial hemp, they're the same plant. They're cousins. And so for me, it's a spiritual and very healing plant, as we all know. And it's about the frequencies and the connections that you make, not only with the plant, but the use of it and the people that you're around when you're using it. But then I think the problem I have is we on one side, we talk about the spirituality of the plant and how beautiful it is and how medicinal it is. And then you look at the way we grow it, and it's nothing like that. The love is gone, especially in an indoor grow. And so, we do things to it, we mutate it, we do everything we can. And I think it's because, obviously, for the money. It isn't because it's for the patient. And all the things that the plant understands, or all the plant is If we measure it by genetics, and we say that's the metrics to have a discussion, cannabis has 35,000 genes and humans have 25,000. So it's extremely intelligent, and it'll grow in a granite in Yosemite. It'll grow in a sidewalk.
I know.
On the freeway.
I've seen them popping up through concrete practically. It's
Exactly.
it's an amazing thing.
So when we have master growers who then take it, and I say, a lot of people disagree with me, but I say mutation. A lot of people say, oh, it's adaptation. I said, no. Adaptation would be if you see the color difference between you and I, because I lived closer to the equator, and my people, Jamaica, Africans, we got a skin pigment, right? We changed and we got darker. That's adaptation. But mutation is when you take something and you stress the heck out of it, or you do different, starving it, giving it one frequency of light, giving it poisons, giving all that just to see what you get. Well, it's trying to protect itself, so it's going to grow. And when you're lucky, you get some things out of it that you want out of it, but it's not all the full complements of compounds that Mother Nature developed that plant for. And so for me, it's all about how do you do biomimicry with the plant? How do you replicate as close as you can to Mother Nature?
So biomimicry is the term. I just want people to understand what that is.
Sure.
Your process is to try to mimic nature.
Correct.
When growing cannabis.
Correct.
Okay, so that obviously means outdoors would be the best way?
The very best way our company feels, and anybody involved with us, is that the best way to grow cannabis is outdoors, in living soil. As the land races developed over the years, the rusticity, everything is the best, no matter what. No matter what kind of biomimicry situation you are, you're not going to get anything better than Mother Nature. Now, having said that, with the way that we've treated the planet, with the way of climate change, with our neighbors doing different things to our soil, a lot of other things that happen for that reason, like industrial agriculture has gone to, it's got nothing to do with the soil. And we forget this. We normalize this as though it's the real thing, and that's how we should do it. Farms. I mean, if you think about California is a good example, just one little anecdote. California is in a drought situation. We're always arguing between Northern and Southern California about drought and the water, and we don't have water. The fact of the matter is California provides 30 to 35% of all the produce for the rest of the nation. Maybe if you grew it local, instead of allowing California, the one, to do almost a third, then maybe the water situation wouldn't be as bad. In other words, we're subsidizing all the other states
with your water.
Yeah, with our water.
Okay, so but how do you deal with like the different climates? I mean, obviously some states can't grow, because of the seasons, the climate, and so forth. The terroir, as they say. So, so do you think that can happen? Do you think that more people? I mean, if people grow their own food, it certainly would help. I mean, that everybody could probably do a little bit.
I think everybody should grow their own food, and I think everybody should grow their own cannabis, especially if they're ill. If they have someone at home and they're themselves and they're treating themselves. Now, it doesn't mean that we should put everybody out of business that's doing indoor growing from different kinds of chemovars, but I think if you are really in tune with medicinal use, you should learn that plant, and you should grow that plant yourself.
So I just want to jump in, just to ask you, when did you realize that it was medicinal? Okay, I started using the plant and smoking it and loving it in 1968 when I was about 18 years old in California. But I knew it made me feel good. I knew it wasn't harmful. And I advocated for it back then, passing out leaflets for NORML in 1972 and 3 and stuff. But medicinally, I really didn't understand that until 1996 in Berkeley, in Northern California, in Oakland, where Dennis Perone and Jack Herer and all those people just told the world and convinced the state of California that it was a medicine.
Yeah.
So when did you realize it? Because it just didn't hit me.
When I came to the States, in the Fiji Islands, I was in tropical area, so I didn't feel much. But moving to San Francisco Bay Area, often people talk about, one of the coldest days I spent was a summer day in San Francisco. Because of the fog, the 11. And so I got rheumatoid, I had rheumatic fever when I was in the islands. And when I came here, it turned into rheumatoid arthritis. And I really couldn't do anything in that. And, the fog is so penetrating and cold. And as you know, cannabis is an anti-inflammatory. And so I started feeling much better. I mean, of course, being a vegan made a big difference. I'm an old geezer. So I changed my diet, but I also added cannabis to, a regular regime. And I have to tell you that if I didn't have that, I probably would not been able to go to school or to have the jobs that I had did, or to even, because I like it, just driving from San Francisco to Sacramento when the dad was doing some, he was a medical doctor as well. He had some projects there. That's, for those who don't know, it's about an hour and a half drive. But I'd have to stop at least 3 times, and my parents would have to massage my leg because I could be cramped up. But after cannabis, I joined ice skating, a speed skating team of all things, and we were runner-up for the Olympics. So, I was doing things that I typically would never been able to do if I hadn't started cannabis.
Wow. So do you also ingest it orally? Do you use it or just use smoke?
No, I don't think. I'm a flower vaporizer. I want all the compounds. I think that when you ingest it, it's going through your gastric. It's doing what it's supposed to do. You lose a significant amount. People like edibles, but that's because, well, first, vegan. There aren't too many vegan edibles. They use something that's from the animal product. Number 2, it's full of sugar, typically to make it taste good, to do that. So you're robbing yourself from one side to be able to help the other side. I don't think that's a good balance.
But there are things like capsules that people can use to take it internally. I mean, I think there's definitely a place for and juicing. The cannabis juicing of the vegetative leaves seems to be incredibly helpful medicinally.
I think if you look at the data, you'll see that sublingual is the best if you're going to ingest it, or for those people at end of life, through a suppository. But I think as far as if you want the full medical benefit of a cannabis, you do one of two. First, I think, is you ingest it in your sublingual. The second is you do it as a vaporizer, not where you combust. No combustion goes on. A vaporizer like an Ergo, a Riser, or a Fury 3, or a Pax has one. And then I think the third one is I think the last one is the stomach one, because you're going through. You're not really getting all the benefits. You got hydrochloric acid in your stomach, for God's sake, right? So if you're really trying to help someone medicinally, and topically is probably the least helpful. Our skin is certainly a third liver, but
what about the navel? I think Ayurvedic uses the navel for certain things. Will that work with cannabis?
Well,
I mean,
yeah, it does. I think again, it's depending on the use factor. What is it you're really trying to do? For instance, if you're doing cancer, and certainly Rick Simpson, under your tongue is the best. There is no other way to do it, so I think it's why are you taking it is important in the way that you ingest it, and the efficacy of what you're getting. And on top of that, the processing of the flower. Remember, it's a whole plant extract, so it's got everything there that Mother Nature has developed. The minute you start screwing with it in different ways of extraction, of isolation, of heating, cooling, using different kinds of hydrocarbons and all of that, that to me can be as dangerous as the thing you're trying to solve, because you can't get parts per million out on a lot of those processes.
So do you think making, traditional kind of hashish where, is that okay? Do you think to separate it in a natural way?
Yes. Water. I think Frenchy Cannoli did a great job of doing that. I think there are people who do water-based separation. You still can get some of the trichomes. You're not going to get them all. But Frenchy did a very good job. He's not the only one. There's quite a few other people that understand how to do that. It's just that some of the bubble hash and things like that are the best, but it's not economical in the sense of doing mass production. So you don't get too many people doing it because they can't make money off of it.
So as far as combusting it or vaporizing, do you feel that vaporizing it gives you a chance of getting more of the terpenes and other cannabinoids that sort of gas off at a lower temperature than fire?
Yes, but it's very important because it goes back to the plant, how you cure it. How the post-processing is probably as important or more than the growing of it.
Absolutely. If you blow it in the curing, you've wasted 9 months of your life. Can you give us and the listeners an idea of what you feel is the best way to cure? Is that something that's in your?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, you need to look at water transpiration rates. The people fight a lot of things like mold and mildew. What we have done is we've used different kinds of our technology to not only control in an indoor, obviously, a very slow water vapor transfer, looking at the water vapor transfer rate, humidity, temperature, and infrared light.
So can you explain that? Because I was always told a dark room. So what do you mean by an infrared light?
Well, infrared is dark. You can't see it.
Right.
Yeah.
So are you saying to send some kind of infrared signal into the room? I'm not.
Yeah. We have lights that we can change to only give infrared or only UV. But we have a very fast throwing. We have a vast amount of coverage of density of infrared in a room. People have tried it very close proximity like LEDs and things like that. But when you're doing a whole room, it's very hard to do. And so we, the process that we would be using would be to look at the temperature, and control it and go down extremely slow so that you don't retain a lot of the water to create a lot of the mold and situations that people get into, but also allow the plant to dry naturally as it would outdoors, especially in the higher elevations where they get much better and it's drier. Because most of the best cannabis grows between the Tropic of Capricorn and Cancer. So there are a few strains, not strains, but chemovars that grow above and below that. But for the most part, that's where the better longevity, rusticity, all of that comes into play. So you want to do it like that, like Mother Nature does it over its life.
So what about the end part of curing? Okay, when do you think it needs to be going into jars for preservation and so forth?
Well, obviously you want to put it in a UV jar. People do a lot of home stuff where they let air in and let air out, close it. I think it's the same thing that you talk about cannabis, like fruits, right? When's the best time to eat a fruit?
Absolutely. Do you think cannabis is a fruit?
Oh, absolutely. I think the ends of the trichomes, those are all fruits.
Uh-huh. So not a vegetable.
No,
It's a fruit because of the seeds, or I mean,
I think it's a fruit because of that, but I also think that it's a combo. It's a very unusual plant.
yeah.
You know, it kind of emulates both. But the trichomes, like when you're shaking, you know, it's that song, sure do like your peaches, want to shake your tree.
Yes.
Uh, uh, I'm just saying that there's a right time. The best time to eat a fruit is when the plant drops it, because it's finished its work. And it's the same thing. We rush the cannabis. We do different things to try to get, you know, what we think is the medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't always get the full benefit. And that's the same thing with doing curing. We don't allow it, just like people don't do indoor sativa. It takes too darn long, according to them.
Right. Well, yeah, it would be expensive. I've actually left a sativa outdoors here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, at 7,500 feet till November 11th one year because it just
Right.
wouldn't. So, do you look at the trichomes? Are you looking for a particular range of color of the trichomes? Because nature doesn't. Nature just does what it does. So what
Well, I mean,
are you
everybody's
looking
after
for?
amber, but that depends on the chemovar and how it's grown. I mean, Frenchie's again is one of the best of this because he saw the nuances. Frenchie Cannoli saw the nuances in the trichomes and figured out what mix and match that he would do to be able to come to the flavor profiles as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, he was a big terroir guy as well. But I wanted to answer that question for you. There's no way we're going to be able to actually create terroir of a specific area, but we can do a lot of the biotic and abiotic conditions necessary for the plant to grow. And with what's going on right now in our world and climate, and the fact that we want to get medicine that's reproducible, that can be somewhat standardized within some dynamic range, we have to have some standard to grow it under. And so going into an indoor grow where you have controlled grow is the right way to go. The problem is that we're borrowing from indoor agriculture, and that is the wrong way to go. So we're thinking, oh, that's successful, like vertical growing or hydroponics or autoponics or any of these things. And that's not Mother Nature. That's not biomimicry. That's just trying to figure out a way to make the plant grow. And so where we came into the biomimicry world is we saw, going to conferences and such, that about 80% of that conference, you know, forget about the advertising, the getting an internet, getting a web page up, the labeling, the bottling, all that's the same, no matter in the industry for doing makeup. It's the same for lots of other places. It's the same business model. There's no difference. But where it's different in that, and you take all that out, advertising, business card doing, lounges, all that stuff, just take it out. What do you have left at a conference? You have people who are trying to get the energy of the sun indoors.
Mm-hmm.
They're making up for the fact that they don't have frequency and they don't have the energy. We are all connected to the energy of the sun. That's all we are. We are part of that. Sun goes away, we all go away, all of us. So if you think of the earth as the gut, our lower gut, 70% of our immune system is our gut. Well, the earth is that way too. The earth is our gut, in essence.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we treat it not like it should, with having all the bacteria, all the fungal growth, all the mycelium, all those things, then we don't have a healthy earth. And that's what's happened with agriculture. We've gone the Monsanto way. We've done it quick. We want it fast. We want it on the shelf faster. We want to travel with it. We want colors. So we mutate. And the public assumes they're getting food. If you go to Costco right now, or any other, big block stores, you find 5 or 6 aisles of nothing but supplements. Mm-hmm. We used to get that from grandma's garden. We used to get that from our food. We didn't have these supplements. So our food is getting worse in the grocery stores, and our prescription and supplements are going up. So we're really living an artificial life. And then how do you know what the combination of those pills are that you should be taking? You don't know. So having a good gut. So going back to what I'm saying is at the conference, I think a vast majority, I don't know what number it is, are biochar, LED lighting. I've got this beautiful formula. It's going to work for this. It's going to, and all it is the fact that you don't have the energy to grow the plant, because Mother Nature doesn't do any of that. So we realized that the thing that was missing was the electromagnetic energy of the sun indoors, which is why we invented the sun on demand.
Okay, so sun on demand, explain what that is, please.
The sun on demand is indoor sunlight, literally indoor sunlight. It's not LED. It's actually 50 to 78% more energy efficient than LEDs. And I do a much larger area. One of our lights covers, we advertise 100 square feet, but some of our growers gone up to 120 square feet. So one 1100 watt light at 5 amps, which is like the power of your hair dryer. We can do a significant large indoor area of all sunlight, pure sunlight.
So you've been able to figure out how to tune the spectrum more towards a natural sun.
We looked at what NASA was doing. I'm also a consultant with NASA, and I've been doing aerospace and work. I mean, that was my first love. So we figured a way to make sunlight indoors through using a plasma. I can, if you want, I can share one screen that'll make it really easy for you to understand it. And most people don't know it until they see it. So let me share this one screen. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's give that a try. I haven't done that yet, but let's definitely give it a try. And while you're doing that, I'll just ask you: do you also mimic the rising of the sun in the morning slowly and the coming down at night, or is it just on and off?
It's currently on and off from light cycle, but our new technology is going to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds like more natural mimicry.
Closer to Mother Nature. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing next. But if you allow me to screen share, it'll tell me.
Okay. Well, I'm not getting any kind of a message that is asking for that. And let me see.
Well, I think
I hear share screen. I got it right down. Let me try that.
Perfect.
So I want to see. Okay, it wants to share my screen. I'm not seeing your screen. That's the problem.
Well, you have to enable me to do it. And I think it's going to be, let me look here, preferences, video, go to allow share screen there.
All right. So do you have an allow share? Do you have a share screen on your Zoom screen? Because I do, but when I hit it, it just wants me to share my screen. So I'm assuming you have to share yours.
Yeah, I'm doing that, but it's saying the host disabled participate screen sharing.
Okay, hang on. One participant can share at a time. Unfortunately, I'm not sure how to do it. So
no worries. So let me explain it. So basically, in a 500 square foot room, we had this was a geneticist up in Oregon. They had a bunch of, I think, over 24 high pressure sodium lights, and that's 24,000 watts. We replaced it with one 1100 watt sun on demand and covered the whole room. That's why I wanted to show you the photo, because the photo speaks.
All right. Well, you'll send me a photo, and I'll use it as a bumper when we do the show.
Okay.
Broadcast the show.
And then, so now, would we do that in real life? No, we would do 5 lights, but that's still 5,000 watts compared to 1100 watts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 24,000 watts. So you not only save in the air conditioning, which you cut in half, you allow the plants to grow faster, and you can add one more cycle. per grow. Like if you're doing 4 cycles, you can add 5 because our veg time is so much incredibly high, and you don't top the plants. So, in LEDs, you have to put CO2 in the room. You have to, and you have to cut the top, cut all the bottom, which to me doesn't make any sense. That's like having a beautiful young lady and, taking her dress off and everything and just having her head around, or her arms.
I get
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I get you.
So it's a beautiful, and so we don't trim any of the plants. We trim on the bottom to get some air movement, but for the most part, so you get buds all the way down to the bottom.
You're not lollipopping, is what you're saying.
No lollipop.
Okay. So do you have lights from the side as well, or
Nope.
just over top?
No. Because you have green in it, it penetrates.
Okay.
It goes even and activates the microbes as well. So what we're really doing is creating all. So now remember, with LEDs, it's a very narrow band. It's blue, it's red, but there is nothing in between there. There's no frequencies in between. There's no interstitials. There's no quarter wave, eighth wave, 16th wave. We have them all from UVA all the way up to infrared, 1650 nanometers. So everyone. So what does that do? It doesn't mean that all of a sudden Sundarajan and our team have figured out, oh, this is what the plant wants. That's not what we've done. What we've done is said, we're just going to do the sun and allow the plant to choose whatever mixture of frequencies it wants during its growth period. For medicine, where you are in the medical marijuana end of things, is that we believe by having at least one standard, because it doesn't degrade like LEDs. At 130 hours, LEDs start changing spectra.
Right.
Not to even mention that in a year, you're going to have to replace, 2 years now, 2 and 3 years, you're going to replace all of them. Or high pressure sodium, where the minute the electrode starts wearing away, the minute you buy it. Or even ceramic metal halide is the same thing, and a lot of heat. Well, our spectrum stays together for over 100,000 hours. We have one running 6 hours.
One light?
6 years.
One light has been running 6 years. Wow.
Yeah. In the University of Zurich. Absolutely. And doesn't change spectrum, doesn't change frequencies, doesn't change the amount of photons coming out. It's at 140,000 lumens, if you're going to go in the lumens, from one 1100 watt light. So our goal as a company isn't to sell lights. Our goal is to help the farmers. A lot of times people and investors have wanted to come and invest in us, and often they ask me the question, why are you going to see Sunshine Johnson, who's a dry farmer up in Humboldt County? She's a dry outdoor farmer. Why would they even want your light? They don't want to do anything indoors. I said, well, so they can overwinter, so they can keep their moms healthy.
Exactly.
So they can do their R&D in genetics, so they can start their seeds, get them hardened, get 60% more root mass, more internodes, so that when they put it out there, it's healthy. Because our goal as a company to get more plants, more medicine out. Our goal is to get full nutrient dense food to people in blighted areas, food security issues. Yes, the light goes along with it as a tool, but it's not a panacea by any means. You have to have a grower that knows what they're doing. You have to have living soil, not just some made up mumbo jumbo of trying to make it look like it's, emulating mother just to pump up one particular compound or several compounds because that's what you want to sell. So we try to work with that in smaller growers to not only protect their genetics. And one idea I threw out there, that's a couple of, I think, very astute geneticists have understood. Most of the cannabis we have is Afghan or Afghan Kush indoors. Because it has
wide leaf.
Yeah, because then they started breeding that and mix and matching, and just because they wanted a 28-day cycle, they wanted faster cycles. So if you look at the current strains, now I'll say strains, not chemovars, or phenotypes.
Varieties?
Well, if you want to call them variety,
Yeah.
but
Just don't say strand. That makes
Yeah.
me nuts. That's all I care about.
well, the thing is that we had to come up with all these words to describe the fact that we are cloning these plants and doing tissue culture. And now it's all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
When you grow from seed, you get a taproot.
Right.
You understand these don't have taproots. The other thing is, I always ask people, is cannabis a perennial or an annual? We've been able to veg it back. We have one guy that's been using it in the Marley family. I can't tell you about it, but 5 years they've been same like a rose bush. Think of all the work we do with pots and throwing things away when we could be growing in living soil indoors in beds with companion plants, with Mother Nature, which is what the Sun on Demand allows them to do. Now, since most of it is Afghan, and other things brought in to make it as this base, we get only a very small slice of the medicine available to us. There's a few sativas, right? Durban, and there's a few sativas in the mix, but for the most part, for indoor growing, it's, indica. But now you can bring sativas indoors. You can, let's say you did this. You got a land race that's got a lot of rusticity and and you have a favorite strain. You take this strain of yours, your phenotypes, your particular plant that you have developed and said, wow, this is really great. You find out the lineage. Where did it go back to? What did it start with? You go to that land race and you cross it once, cross it back, maybe cross it another time, and then now go pheno hunting. You have any idea how many compounds you're going to gain? How much rusticity you're going to get because you've got the beautiful Mother Nature grown outdoor plant. Now a lot of it is sitting in the strain you developed. So now with the Sun on Demand, you can now grow it knowing that you at least have one standard, because the soil changes indoors. You got to keep feeding it. The air, all these adiabatic things change, but you don't have sunlight. The lights all wear away. But now with the Sun on Demand, you can have a standard to what to build everything with. So now we can get more nutrient-based, heavy, or at least complete, not only fruits and vegetables. Because the other thing is, if you look at the indoor growers, they're mostly doing leafy greens and sprouts, and some are doing a few tomatoes, but are they doing blueberries? Are they doing eggplant? Are they doing okra? Are they doing the full rainbow of foods you want as a vegan myself to be able to have all the nutrients? No, they're not. They can't, because they only have 21 to 23% of the energy, and they're pumping in other things to make up for that in nutrients, in water, in artificial, 17 different chemicals to make the plant grow. And you don't think those chemicals are ending up in the food? You bet they are. Organic allows 35 different chemicals to be present in lower numbers. So what we're hoping for is strategic partners with people that want to grow locally. And in the cannabis world, we want people that are really doing more medicinal grows. Although if you did a Hindu Kush, I think Kevin Jodri speaks about this often. If you get a full spectrum plant, that's more landrace. In fact, he's got a program going right now that he's helping the Afghan people get back some of these genetics. You're going to have a better high and a longer range high and a more body effect when you do those land races than you do any of the things in dispensaries that are hybridized. So we have all these homozygous, for the sense of growing, for making money, for doing that. And what we want is to partner with people. We're not talking about, we want more nutrient dense food, and we want more full spectrum medicine.
Okay, so is there a difference between full spectrum and and whole plant or full plant? Is it the same?
I think it's different words for the same thing.
Okay.
And we don't really have a full. There used to be entourage effect, used to be ensemble effect. I think everybody comes up with a definition, but all I'm saying is this: every day we're discovering another compound in that plant. We have not discovered everything. And when we take it indoors, it cannot express all of the compounds in a given landrace, as an example. It cannot, because it doesn't have the energy available, and it isn't doing it like Mother Nature. So we're losing a lot of compound and combination of compounds that a medicine could do in medicinal grow. And this is the reason why I think working together as a team, look, we're not a panacea. We don't have the answers to everything. So you need growers, and it needs to be diffused out as a family, a cooperative to help with this. This is not us trying to own some specific lighting market. If I had a brown bag that I could do this with, I would do it this way.
Right. You're just trying to get back to nature. I understand that.
Indoors.
So speaking of getting back to nature and keeping things natural in the plant, and not modifying or adapting, all those terms that we talked about a little while ago. How do you feel about Delta 8 THCO acetate, Delta 10, Delta 150? What about these conversions?
Dangerous.
Dangerous. Go ahead. In what way? Do you think it's dangerous because maybe we don't know enough about Delta 8? On the long run, that it might be harmful, or is it possible we could find uses for medicinal uses for changing some of these molecules in the future that could help people in their health?
I think it's dangerous because there's several things going on. With a full plant extract, there's combination of compounds that work with each other, and we don't understand all of them. No. There's not enough work that's been done to understand the relationship of all those different compounds in combination with the terpenes we just don't know. And so we start isolating based on anecdotal. And because here's the deal, and this is another reason for the Sun on Demand, the growing method of a given chemovar, once you say, okay, Delta 8 or a specific isolate is really, really good. Well, how do you know where you get that from? I mean, if you're using it from the same chemovar, then there's different growing methods. And often at conferences, I talk about that indoor grow is really, for the most part, not everybody. I'm not going to generalize everybody, but a vast majority is poison because of the heavy metals that are in it, because of the chemicals that are in it. And so how can you live having a dispensary product when you know it's harmful, when you know you're trying to do a medicinal patient? So getting back to Delta 8, Delta 9 is present. This is just a play to try to get around rules and regulations.
Yes.
It's got nothing to do with efficacy of a medicinal, just like CBD is, THC, the blood-brain barrier. I mean, you need a little bit, not maybe, they have shown things with CBD for topicals, but, heck, I could probably, take CBD and oil my windshield washer. I mean,
CBD is good for everything.
Everything. I mean, it's sort of like that movie, Big Fat Greek Wedding, where the guy was using Windex. It's just good for anything. It doesn't matter. And it's just sad to me because it's giving cannabis a bad name in its efficacy and its usability. So and on top of that, I mean, just getting high is nice. I enjoy it. I do it, as you well know, when we've met up on Clubhouse. But I want to do it carefully and cautiously. I want to make sure I take care of my body. And here's something else to take into account, is one particular chemovar or what particular edible or one particular brand might be good for a person as medicine, but you also have to look at their life, their wellness.
Mhm.
You have to see, are they filling themselves sugar? If you're a cancer one and you're still doing a bunch of food with sugars and you're doing, energy drinks and you're taking cannabis, really? I mean, the body has to get to homeostasis somehow, and we don't always consider, and since everybody's endocannabinoid system is different, not to mention the vagus nerve and the combination of that comes in. I mean, the body is amazing complicated. And there is no one brand, one chemovar that's going to be good across everybody for a given ailment. It's just not going to happen.
Right. That's the problem, that everybody reacts differently to the plant, and it's confusing to a lot of people. But in my minor teachings of helping people use the cannabis for the first time, I explain to them that it's all about dosage. Okay, you don't need to roll a whole joint and smoke it down. Okay, I don't think anybody does. I think your body is going to react to cannabis the way your body reacts to it, and certain strains or cultivars don't work for everyone. So I totally understand that, and the general public needs to understand that a little bit more. So yeah, go ahead, son. Thank you.
Well, the other thing I wanted to say at this moment, I don't know how, for your audience as well, I only know those things I have experienced. The things that I speak right now are my experiences and working with growers and understanding the plant. I am not an expert in any way, shape, or form on any of this. I'm also learning every day from yourself, from anybody and everybody. I constantly learn. I'm about being in the now and not looking at the past or the future, because that's all I can affect right now is what I can do next, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have in our company, we're a majority woman-owned company. The idea initially came from Dr. Kat Donnelly, and she's a badass. She's got 2 masters in engineering and her PhD out of MIT. And so she's in energy saving, she's in, doing diffusion across large cities. She's done 20 cities I'm an owner in that company as well, Empower Efficiency. We're about community-based programs. We're talking about circular economies. We're talking about how do we take food and bring it to the people who actually need it. A good example I would give you is solar. We promote solar all the time. Solar panels, solar,
Mm-hmm.
saving energy. It's so great. But the problem is that in the States, at least, you got to have a roof to put a solar panel on. And the people who actually need it, the poor, the ones in blighted areas who really need energy saving money, pocket, being able to have a computer, be able to read, have light, can't get that solar energy, unless there's a community-based program or somebody's giving it to them. So yeah, it's really great, but we've normalized the fact that you get it free. In California, they give you a rebate, but you got to have a house. And a lot of people are in apartments, and more that's happening now. It's changing. So it's the same thing with cannabis.
So do you think there's a rejection of solar energy by the electric companies? Somebody,
yeah. I mean, when you're, in our sort of capitalist society, and by the way, I want to mention that I don't think capitalism is bad. It's the abuse of it that's bad. Just a little side note, I find it that people are so normalized there are certain things that cannot think about. Right now, today, and I don't think it's ever been in the history of the world, that 3 people own 60% of the wealth in the world. 3 people, 60% of wealth of the world by capitalism. That's abuse, right?
No, it certainly
That's
is.
abuse.
I
right?
mean, it's just we've been working towards that for all these years, and our governments are set up to advance
Yes.
that. And it's like, how do we put that toothpaste back in the tube?
Well, with the case of cannabis, I've thought through this a little bit. For instance, the equity programs that are all around trying to help, people of color, of which I am one. I think getting the highest quality cannabis and not being a Me Too product. How many different brands of Durban poison can you have on the shelf? And you have to pay for the shelf space to get it in front. Or you got to get a hip hop artist or a sports figure to front it to get it out and get the marketing. It's all about labeling. It's all about branding. Bullshit, I say. It's about what's in the bottle. It's about the plant. It's about what you start with in the medicine. Because you know what? When you have a restaurant, and you probably have experienced this being in San Francisco and Berkeley, we have some hole in the wall, back in the alley restaurants where they save you on paper plates. They're better than some of the 5-star Michelin restaurants in San Francisco. This is how the beer industry started. I think cannabis needs to go that direction. And people who grow it closer to landrace, Kevin Jodrey of all people are doing it now. He's doing it. He's looking at that, understanding it. He understands also that we need to have the younger crowd and we have to meet the market. And I understand that. I've come up with a formula for a lot of growers to help them ease into going back to Mother Nature. And so I think the goal should be with a lot of the equity people to stand out and not to have a Me Too product, to differentiate in the market. What happens on Leafly or Weed Maps? You pop in there and there's Panama Red available.
I don't believe it.
You won't, number one. Yeah. And a lot of people say this, oh, it's been mutated and everything so many years, you don't even know if you have the right one. That's total bullshit too. If you look at what the work is being done in India, and I just connected with Dr. Tahir Saeed.
Oh, I love him. Yes.
He and his whole group in India they didn't have a choice. They could only use land races. There's no homozygous chemovars in India. It's only land races controlled by the government. Guess what? They think because all these strains and everything are available in the United States, they're somewhere back in the woods. Like, oh my God, we're so back, we're lighting our house with candles.
Yeah, no.
And you guys have got the LEDs. And I'm like, listen, if you look at it from the plant's point of view, and you understand it from the medicinal point of view, the landrace has the most to offer everybody. It's that people cannot figure out a way to monetize it in a way and to come up with ego-driven names. Who the hell cares if it's, Girl Scout cookie and it's mine and all the genetic guys are just mutating the hell out of it, trying to do different things to come out with dank, when the real dank is in the land races.
Well, there's many of us that want those land races, that we grew up on those, okay? I started smoking in 68. I smoked the real Acapulco Gold, that they put that name on it. And I smoked the real Afghani hash and Nepalese temple balls and the Panama Red and the real Jamaican and the Gold Colombian. I was able to live in that era when I was first getting into cannabis and experience all of that. But does it really still exist somewhere in the outs?
Yeah, it does. It does. And there's people collecting it both in Santa Cruz. Kevin is starting to do it now. I have a grower up in Alaska with Jeff Lowenfels that's doing it. I have another gentleman, he's a veteran in Oregon, Hawk Marsden. He has some very great genetics.
Mm-hmm.
I think that either they feel us oldsters, OGs, don't know what the hell we're talking about, because, you know, they want the tight bud. They want all the things that have nothing to do with efficacy of the product, of the utilization of that beautiful plant. Because you want more surface area. When you have closed buds, you have less surface area, which means less trichomes. But when you have this, you have more surface area. When you have open buds, you have more trichomes. You know, there was a gentleman in Belief up in Canada who just, you know, he can't believe what the lights are doing for him. He's got trichomes. He's got it on all over the leaves.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I usually just get it on my buds. I get maybe the first row, I get some, but I'm never like this.
Yeah.
Well, because the plant is expressing itself. It's trying to protect itself too.
Exactly. That's what brings out different terpenes in the plants.
Yes.
It's protecting itself from bugs or this thing or that thing. So so we have a couple of minutes left.
Yeah.
I would just like people to know: is your special light that you are mimicking the sun with, is it available for people now, or is it still in development? Can people use this system?
Oh no, we've been running it for 3.5 years.
Okay.
Selectively. It's back ordered right now, about 3 months, unfortunately, because more and more people want it. We are looking for angel or a impact investor,
Mm-hmm.
or even a cooperative investor that we can help them leverage us and we can leverage them. So that's in play. But yeah, it's available for sure. You'll have to get in line, unfortunately.
Okay, well, where can people? Well, that's like you're like the Tesla of lights, I guess. Get in line, place your order. Where can people see your website and get more information? Because I think it's really important. This industry, especially with growing indoors, is not green. It's a green industry that is just eating up, the environment with a bad footprint. So what you're doing is definitely going to help that. So if you could give out that information, then we'll wrap it up.
Sure. They can do it. They can find us at thesunondemand.com. So thesunondemand.com, all one run-in word.
Mm-hmm.
And Azentive, AZENTIVE.com. Azentive is more of the wellness, sustainability, and emerging technology. And the Sun on Demand is our flagship. We also have technologies to clean seeds and atmospheric plasma. So for the seed growers. So we have a variety of other things.
Well, thank you, Sun. This has been amazing. I want to see where you're going to be in 5 to 10 years from now with what you're doing, because we need to educate more people. And for me, and for you, I'm sure, it's a little saying that I've made up, which is it's about the plant, the whole plant, nothing but the plant. So help me plant.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sun.
You're welcome. The thing I wanted to just end with, if you don't mind, is you have to look at it from the plant's point of view, and you have to use the whole plant to be able to get the benefit. And if you're spiritually connected to the plant, then you need to love it. You have to love the plant, the planet, and the people. So we say we love flowers, yet we pluck them. We say we love trees, yet we cut them down.
Mm-hmm.
And people still wonder why some people are afraid when I tell them that I love them.
Well, I love you. Peace and love. Peace and love. And thank you for your time today. We're going to have to do this again. I don't think we touched 10% of what's in that head of yours. So thank you, Sun. We'll be right back after this.
This is the Medical Marijuana Radio Show with Larry Love.
Wow, I want to thank Sun. That was totally amazing. I also want to thank my 2 radio mentors, both with the initials HS. We'll be back next time with another great interview. Peace and love, everybody. Peace and love.
Whoa, whoa. I got something here for you and me. Oh yeah, it's a medical marijuana. Whoa, whoa.